Welcome to Partner Pulse, the Quickly Hire podcast where we explore how innovative organizations are supporting and empowering the startup ecosystem. I'm your host, Brad Morrison. In each episode, we connect the spaces, communities, and programs that help founders thrive. Whether you're running a co-working space, leading an accelerator, or building a founder community, these conversations will provide valuable insights on nurturing startup success through strategic resources and talent solutions. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today I am joined by David Nelson, Executive Director of Founders Forge in Johnson City, Tennessee. Welcome, David.
Thank you so much for having me.
So David, tell us a little about Founders Forge.
We're a nonprofit entrepreneur center, 501c3, that is based in the heart of Appalachia in Johnson City, Tennessee. And if you're not sure where that is, we're just north of Asheville, really close to the Bristol Motor Speedway, and we're really right at that corner tip of Tennessee.
What is the population like there, just to give an idea?
About 75,000 people now. It's grown significantly since I moved here in 2014, where we were in the mid 50s, 55,000. And so it's grown quite a bit. But we're still considered by most outside looking in a fairly small rural community.
And then the area includes Johnson City and Bristol and Kingsport. There's a pretty large area of towns even around it as well.
Absolutely. And if you think about Tennessee's, right, kind of comes to the start point. So we have Northeast Tennessee around us. We have Kingsport with headquarters of Eastman. We have Bristol Motor Speedway and Bristol, Tennessee, and Virginia. And then around us, we also have Kentucky, Southwest Virginia, a little bit of North Carolina, all just surrounding us. And so you can go to one of 3 to 4 states within less than an hour's drive here, which is kind of amazing because we're all in the Appalachian Mountains. So it's beautiful views. You get the Smoky Mountain views. We're really close to the Smoky Mountain National Park, like an hour, hour and a half to get there. And so if you had any experience in that area, then you can imagine what our city really looks like, and then what the whole region as a whole looks like. And combined, when you put the whole region together, it's about 500,000 people, but we're very, very spread out. And so that creates all kinds of challenges when it comes to entrepreneurial support and other things that we're trying to do to help grow our community.
I've been through there. I'm not super familiar with it, so I'm enjoying learning a little bit about that area. I do know, though, it pops up in the best of type places to live and retire. So it is a popular area. Probably since COVID, even the population has increased with a lot of new folks coming into the area.
Yeah, and that growth has been just tremendous. It really started before COVID. People were starting, I think there's a cycle where people move to the city and then they want to start families and they want to move to areas that have a little bit of land. And we see that cycle happen. And I think we were already transitioning to that, where more people were moving to the area. Johnson City was the best kept secret. I moved here in 2014 and it was a very different place then. It was still, I just looked at it and was just amazed at the quality of life that we have here. And a lot of people talk about cheaper place to live, and it's not just the cost of living that's great here. It's really the outdoor scene. We have a downhill mountain bike park in our downtown that you can ride to from my office. That's just not something you get to do. We have kayaking, hiking, and waterfalls everywhere. It's just an amazing place. From the outside looking in, I get why people see the appeal. And then post-COVID, we just saw that accelerated that cycle. And people were looking for places they could move to. And that caused this area to boom, and it's still booming. And we've been on 5 or 6 different best places to live for all these different reasons. And just this year, Johnson City was one of the best places to live in the entire United States. And that's continuing to drive people to move to this area. And of course, there's challenges with that. But overall, I think it's a great thing for a community like this.
Absolutely. And can also bring a lot of talent in for the startup ecosystem. So tell us a little about the startup ecosystem and what that has looked like maybe over the last decade to now in the Johnson City area.
Yeah, absolutely. In 2014, I moved here. I'd lived in some of the most prominent startup ecosystems in the country. Started out of Indianapolis, went out to Silicon Valley, did a healthcare data startup there with some friends. We moved to Boulder to save money, which thinking back, that's funny thinking you go to Boulder to save money. It was cheaper, but like marginal, right? But then lived in Raleigh, North Carolina for a while and got to see that Research Triangle Park and everything else that goes with that. But we always loved the mountains. And so my wife and I kept coming towards the Asheville and Johnson City area. And we finally just said, why don't we just move there? The company I was running at the time was a mobile app web development company. And we were working with a lot of startups building their MVPs and taking MVPs and taking them to a much greater scale. And I was nervous coming here. I was excited to live here. I'm a kayaker. I wanted to whitewater kayak, hike, bike, climb. And it was nerve wracking of like, am I choosing my hobbies over a successful business? And when I moved here, from the outside in, it just didn't look like much was going on when it came to high growth startups, tech startups, and a lot of small business growth. And it was nerve wracking. And I get why people see areas that are more rural as areas that not much is happening. But I found out that there were about 8 of us in 2014 that were trying to do their own businesses. It's more in the tech space. There were a lot of people trying to start new small businesses in the area too. So it gave me a lot of hope. And the biggest difference that I noticed that was happening here versus in other regions that were more successful with startup cultures and startup communities was that the community got together. And here that just hadn't. There have been past events, things that come and gone, but nothing really stuck. And so a group of us, instead of complaining about it, we did the most founder thing and try to solve the problem. And we held a pitch competition in 2016. And I'll never forget that. I don't know why we said if 35 people come to observe, this is a huge success. Why 35? I have no idea. It's just some arbitrary number. But we ended up having 8 companies pitch their ideas. And it was everything from small business to high growth. And we ended up having about 125 people show up. And we did not plan for that. We ran out of food, we ran out of drinks. We were pulling tables and chairs out, trying to seat everyone. Luckily, the venue was big enough. And there was just something so unique here, though. The crowd was electric. I remember standing up. I was, of course, the MC, which, because, we're doing everything ourselves as cheaply as we can. We had a $2,500 prize that luckily a sponsor gave to us. And I remember just standing up and I didn't really know what to say. I was just so in shock that this got this much attention here. And I just said, entrepreneurship is strong in Johnson City, Tennessee. And the room just exploded in cheers. And I always think back to that moment because that was the catalyst to really see what was going to happen. Looking back, it makes sense now. There was just a interest in this here. And since then, that was 2016. We're now at 2020. We went from just a group of entrepreneurs. I went full time in it, and it's just taken off since then. And we launched in January 2020, right before COVID, which had its own craziness. But since then, we went from 12 high growth startups in 2016 to over 96 high growth startups today. And we've worked with 278 small businesses. In 2016, there were 2,700 small business licenses in our region. There's now over 4,000 today. And so the growth has just been exponential. It wasn't all us. I can't say we did every single thing there, but Founders Forge was definitely a strong piece to helping this entire startup community come together and truly grow. And as people came in from the outside as remote workers, as you probably know, they're 2 to 3 times more likely to start their own business. We've tried to engage with that and support that and encourage people to really build their own futures in an area like Johnson City. And that's been just phenomenal to be a part of and have a strong role in shaping that culture that as it develops.
Congrats on that. And to do it in around a decade is pretty incredible. And it sounds like a lot of the kind of pieces of the puzzle were there, but scattered and needed someone to bring it together.
I think that's true everywhere that we've gone. Since then, we've built quite a few different things. And as our community's gotten bigger, we've had to say, all right, how do we get people from the outside here to bring their knowledge and also connect the people here to a wider network? So we created a big conference that we can talk about in a minute. But we also started packaging up our boot camp into a program we call Levante. And it's a 6-week startup boot camp pre-accelerator where it gets anybody to go from idea to launch or launch to growth. And the reason we did it is that we're a small organization. We're a team of 4. We use AI and automation and things like that to really punch way above our weight. And we get questions all the time saying, how are you doing this? We don't have huge budgets. We don't have a huge team. But we noticed that in every community that we went out to in the surrounding area, from all across Tennessee, as far as Indiana, Arizona, and other places we've had connections to, places like Johnson City exist all across the country, but they're often overlooked. And in each of these places, we've seen a strong amount of entrepreneurs and founders that want more. They want to do better. They just don't always have the same resources you would get in Nashville or Silicon Valley or Chicago or a bigger city. And so we looked at the program that we built, and that program comes from all the accelerators and programs that me and my board have been through. And we took that, packaged it up, and started deploying this in other communities. And we're seeing the exact same thing we did starting to happen there, where they're getting the community together. They're running them through these boot camps, launching between 10 and 20 companies a year through the boot camps. And that could be small business, tech, high growth, it really doesn't matter. It's all the common business language. And Avante seems to be this catalyst that people can get behind, but it's not the program. It's the founders that come together and build that startup community and reach out to each other. There's that catalyst for growth. And so we see what we did here, and now we think we can help others do that as well. And that's been a big part of our mission to really change the Appalachian region, what people think of when they think of Appalachia, and it's working.
I love that you're bottling up something that has worked in your area and then expand it. You're really amplifying the effect and mission of what you're doing across many communities just like yours. That's really neat. Talk maybe then about the program a little bit. If I'm a founder and I'm curious, what does that program look like?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a program that basically takes you, we have a workbook, 266-page workbook that helps you think about your business from the ground up. The things we found through our thousands of coaching sessions we've done, mentorship that we've done over the years, is that what really prevents most people from starting a business is not knowing where to start. And there's different categories. Some people think that, oh, if they don't know where to start, they don't figure it out, then they're never gonna be successful. We've proven that's not true. A lot of people just need to be pointed in the right direction and then shown that, hey, here's a good way to start. But a lot of other individuals, they've run and started something, they got some early customers, and they're just hitting a wall after wall. And it usually comes down to having built a strong foundation. Maybe they've written a business plan and it's sitting on a shelf because it was just all theoretical then. And so we're taking them back to the foundation of their business and helping them think, okay, how do I validate this idea and make sure that we have customers? And you building validation into the entire process of your business as it grows, not just from day one. We're very big on talking to customers. We follow the mom test. If you haven't read that book, strongly recommend it. The mom test customer interview technique. And it's really just talking about your problems, not talking about your solutions, and really trying to get the problems and the customer's problems, not your problems, getting customers to talk about their problems. And you're really diving into understanding from their perspective. Then from there, it's building that plan of, it may not be a full business plan yet, but what is the plan? How is this going to actually work? Is your business model really thought out? How are you going to make money? And one of our biggest goals is if we can get founders to understand how to read a P&L statement, cash flow, and some basic financials, that is just huge. A lot of them love to pass that on or they ignore it. I can't even tell you how many people I've run into that show up and say, hey, I'm getting these letters from the IRS and I haven't paid sales tax in 2 years. And it's like, yeah, I didn't collect it. What do I do? Not that everybody needs to be an accountant, but there's a certain level of financial literacy you really need for the business, and it is obtainable by everyone. It doesn't have to be this big, difficult thing. And then last, it's marketing. We're living in a world where AI is changing the game. And so we also provide free AI training classes through one of our partners. And it just helps businesses compete at a much greater scale early on in their business, whether they're a boutique shop or they're the next tech startup. There's just so much that can be taught in that 6 weeks. And then at the end, there's a demo day where you get to celebrate. And we partner with the chambers of commerce, entrepreneur centers, and people across the board that offer this program. And they see just growth and excitement from the community coming out to support the programs and the new entrepreneurs as well.
So there's some formal instruction and then there's some, is it like mentor led for some of it as well? What would an average week look like in that program?
Because we partner with these different organizations, we want it to become their program too. And so they approach it different ways. And the two main ways are in-person cohorts. They'll have 10 to 15 people that all meet one night a week for 2 to 3 hours. They usually plan on 3 because people want to hang out and talk and help each other. But that in-person cohort model really builds a cohesive community within that 6-week period of time. And then even after the program ends, they tend to stay in touch. We provide an online platform for each of these places to communicate and stay connected to each other. Plus, they get access to a national community as well to meet everyone that's been through a Levante program. And that in-person piece is really impressive. So each one night a week for 6 weeks, and they have a facilitator that leads it. They're not necessarily a teacher, they're a facilitator. And behind the scenes, we're trying to help them provide mentorship and connection within their own community. And if they can't provide that, we typically have someone in our network that can reach out to that startup and work with them directly. And so in the last cohort that we had launching here, we had everything from a nonprofit trying to do housing for people coming out of recovery, like substance use recovery. We had a tech startup that was in the kind of fun, almost pseudo gambling area, but without gambling. We had a social club that was wanting to start in the community, and really just a gamut of all types of businesses. But they all have connected each other and helping each other. And we're able to provide resources that the chambers and others may not have. And then we also connect with them behind the scenes to keep providing as much support as we can. As one organization, we could only run some of these ourselves, but we can support hundreds of these happening at the same time if we're just reaching out, making connections, and staying in communication. And so the other way that we see people run it is they're in Southwest Virginia, they're so spread out that it's just unrealistic. If you ran the program in one county or city, you might only have 2 or 3 people, but if you combine 3 or 4, you get 15 to 20. And so they do a in-person start, get to know each other, and then they do almost all online, and they do a lot more activities and team building type of things with the cohort on top of the programming. And the facilitator kind of leads all of that, and then they come together for a demo day at the end. They provide a little bit of money for who has the best pitch and who talked to the most customers and things like that, which has been very successful for people too. There's a wide gamut of possibilities with the program, but we're really just trying to get everyone to speak the common language of business, understand the foundation that they can build on. And my biggest complaint with past programs on this is that the support ended with the program. And we are building this community to help keep reaching out. We reach out ourselves to keep following up. And we're using some automation to make sure we don't miss anyone. But we jump on one-on-one calls, we connect them to resources and mentors and the overall network too. And I think that's the most important and powerful part of it.
I'm really impressed by the levels of support that you're providing from this program that you've done yourself there, but also now all over the place, providing support for organizations that might not have the resources to put this on themselves in the community. But then also the peer support is so important, whether it's after the program, during the program, and if you don't have it in your area, being able to tap into a larger network of multiple locations that are going through this is incredible. We all faced it with growing a business. What do you recommend for a legal resource? Something about deal structure, building a sales team, and talking to companies and founders that have done that before is just so helpful.
My very first company was a mobile web development company. We landed Captain Morgan Spice Rum as our very first client, which was crazy, right? Just looking back, we thought, we figured this all out. And then, it happens, the financial crisis happens. And I'd love to say that killed the business. It did not. We didn't know what we were doing. But like 5 or 6 years later, I basically ended up starting that same company again, because I had people, instead of me saying, the first company was before the iPhone came out. So we were building apps before the iPhone was out, which was crazy. The Captain Morgan app was in 12 different countries. None of them were United States. And then 5 or 6 years later, people are calling me and saying, hey, are you still building apps? And I was in transition between businesses. And finally I was like, yes, I am. And I basically started the exact same company, but now I had 2 things going for me. I had better timing. I wasn't having to convince people to try this new mobile app thing. Everybody wanted one. And so it was easier for them to come to me. But the most successful piece is, after all those years of working with all these different people, I actually had a remote team from day one that I could just call on, and I had all these remote workers doing gigs on the side. And it was like a fractional team, and was able to develop a lot of them into almost full-time and build up that company. And so that network is so important. And that actually leads me to one other thing we've been doing, is that in this area, when you think of Northeast Tennessee, you think of a smaller town, we still have the issue, despite all the growth and support we're doing. We have almost 100 high growth startups, tons of small businesses that are looking at, how can I do e-commerce, sell, find better distributors, all these different things. But the only big conferences and support and other things that were out there, you had to go to Nashville, you had to go to farther down in the Southeast, Greenville, South Carolina, other places like that, or go out west. And we realized that for our entire region to thrive, we needed to bring people from outside here, as well as get people access and build a network from here into these other states and other communities. And the only way we could come up with doing that was creating a conference. And so we created the Startup Mountain Summit. And that kicked off, big events are always worrisome. We kicked that off a couple of years ago for the first one. And we had 160 people buy tickets, show up. It was bigger than we expected. And we just really focused on the founders. I think a lot of conferences are organizations patting themselves on the back and showing how powerful this ecosystem is. And they have to do that. I don't blame them for doing that, because that usually is attached to federal or state funding. And we have speeches by governors and big companies that are sponsors. And we took the risk and said, we're not going to do that. We're going to make it fully founder focused. Everybody that speaks is going to have actionable information. We're trying to get no big names, although we've had a few big names like Noah Kagan and Brad Feld will be there this year. But even their talks are very grounded for the startups. And last year we had 255 tickets sold. People came from 16 states. This year we're looking at 350 people being there. And it just keeps growing. We're going to be one of the biggest conferences in the state of Tennessee. We're already the biggest in Appalachia, and we're targeting to be one of the biggest in the Southeast too. And I think the difference is that it's the network that you get access to. Like last 2 years, we've had tons of feedback of we just need more networking. I want to meet more people. And so now we're very heavily focusing on the network because that is the power of a startup. When I started that company, I had this network to lean on. I basically didn't do very much sales. I talked to all my past clients, people I worked with, and then all of the people in my network that were working with me, they had access to clients they brought in, and we just rewarded that. And it built this company up to about 14, 15 people. And we did everything with major marketing agencies to startups, venture capital groups send us companies that needed a better MVP. And it just exploded. And it was a really exciting time for that business. And so I doubled down on network. That's the most important thing that you can be doing as a founder is building a network, getting out of, if you're like me, getting out of your basement or closet that you've just been hammering on, trying to figure out things, and go out and talk to people and really figure out getting involved in your local ecosystem and wider ecosystem is very important.
Yeah, I think sometimes remote workers, especially, and our business has been remote for 15 years, it's easy sometimes to hide behind a screen and not get out there. And being able to balance something we've had to learn is the online networking along with having a physical presence and going to networking meetings and going. And that's cool that you bring that together for your region and even larger than the spaces like you mentioned. You may have to go to Atlanta or Raleigh or somewhere like that for a conference like this. And so you're doing it there. So this is Startup Mountain Summit, and this is in November of this year. Is that right?
Yeah, we're November 6th, 7th, and 8th. The main conference days, our pitch is the 6th. We'll be giving out $10,000. So we've been doing that for 9 years now. And that's been phenomenal to see that grow from this event where we had no idea what we're doing to we've got it down to a science. We actually do it at our local ball field. We have people throw up. At least one person every time we've done it at the ballpark says, oh, I thought this was about baseball, but this was a lot of fun. But it works out great. But then, so we've been doing that's November 6th. And then the 7th, we do a new thing we're calling adventure networking. We're a college town. We have East Tennessee State University, and they have a ropes course. So we have people that are signing up doing networking with ropes courses. We have a hike, we have a nature hike and a historical tour, bike ride. There's an adventure for everyone that has that interest in doing that. And our goal is to do that before the main conference starts so that you really get to know somebody instead of the awkward, hi, how are you? My name's this, how are you? And those weird conversations. You just do something with common interest. And we believe by doing it that way, when you step into the conference, you're going to feel like you know a lot of people at the event. And that's just going to build this cohesive feeling to it. And that's been happening a little bit organically before it. So we just decided to make that official and double down on it. And November 7th is half day. And then Saturday, November 8th is a full day. We have speakers that are covering actionable information about AI, not just the theory of it's big. How are people actually using it? We have workshops on it. We have workshops on how do you give great customer experiences from people that just have built phenomenal businesses in retail and online. And Brad Feld, who's one of the founders of the Boulder startup ecosystem, is going to be speaking about his new book on mentorship and just how his approach with a fireside chat on entrepreneurship and what works and what doesn't.
And the main conference is at East Tennessee State. Is that right? Is it on the campus? Is that?
Yes, it's right on our campus. We have a beautiful event center that's connected to the computer science department, which is handy for the technology, with fiber internet as well. We have working lounges and things like that as well. And so it's a really good and nice facility for what we have, but you're also right in the heart of the mountains. So we see it as half conference, half mountain retreat for your startup.
Absolutely. I'm curious about the ball field. Is that so the pitch, are the attendees just sitting in the stands area and the folks who are pitching? That's unique. Yeah. So tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, every year we've done it there, yes, they're in the back in the stands. They would actually walk up. We wouldn't do actually on the pitcher's mound because we didn't want to damage it. Also, it's a little, I was afraid somebody's going to trip. So we have big screen lined up all over the place and they pitch to the audience. There's been some logistics with that. There's a big net to prevent foul balls from hitting people. It's just a little distracting. And so this year we're trying something different. We're actually putting everybody in outfield where the ballpark will be a backdrop. And so it was fun having them walk out just in front of the mound and do their pitch. And you had the speakers and we had a kind of a fun, having fun with announcing of it. But it's gotten too big really to do it that way. And so now we're putting chairs out and having it as a backdrop. But it's definitely, we play up, it's a $10 ticket to attend, or it comes with your conference purchase. But it comes with food, drinks, we have beer sponsors, the whole works. And so it's just a fun event. And then we also do a small business showcase. This year, all of the people pitching are high growth tech, medical device, services, AI. But all the small businesses that have interest, they can apply for free, set up a mini booth, and show off what they're doing. And we have everything from mobile bartenders to new products to every year it's something new and exciting. So you get to see what's coming in our region, as well as people from the outside that are doing offering stuff to our local community. And it's just a fun event that
Wow.
just pulls out the community.
It sounds like a fantastic event. Where can someone go to get more information about that? What's your
Yeah.
web address?
All of that is at startupmountainsummit.com and the pitch and everything that's on there. And then also foundersforge.com. We have all the information about us as well.
Fantastic. You mentioned AI. I want to talk about that a minute. Obviously, with what we do in placing fractional talent with companies, it's something that we are interested in staying on top of, especially as someone might bring in some talent that is working in a quarter time or a half-time role, being able to leverage AI for getting more productivity. And again, you don't have the cost of hiring someone as a full-time employee. What have you seen with startups that you've worked with, maybe their approach to staffing or just the way in that they're using AI to increase productivity with potentially less people?
Oh, absolutely. I think AI has truly been game changing. My background is I'm a software engineer, fell more into the business side for sure, but I still write a lot of the code, build the sites, and everything we're doing internally, as well as a few internal tools that we use. It has changed our capability. And so when you think about we're a team of really four, one of those being an intern that's hopefully going to stick around, and how do we manage all of this, the conference flow and everything else? Normally, we would have to go out, try to hire a full-time person. That would be their job to build this infrastructure, or we just have to buy other software as a service tools that quickly add up. And for us, it just wasn't realistic in the early days to be able to do that. And then AI comes out and it just grows our capability tenfold. And so when we're working with startups, and a lot of them are non-technical founders, you don't have to be a technical founder to be successful. One of our top startups, she is not a technical founder at all and laughs about it all the time, but she has an AI focused startup. And when people like that are coming to us and saying, "Hey, I've got to build this app," and when I used to do these projects, it would be $60 to $150,000 to build something. And today, the team that you should be seeking really is a fractional team early on that leverages AI. And that's not just developers. I definitely lean that way, but marketing. If somebody's doing marketing, I'm not in the world of you should just let AI write all your marketing, all your content. You should create good content, but let AI help you break it up and do it faster. So hiring a fractional marketing person on your team to do that, you're getting 2 to 3 times the amount of work and output from that same person with AI. And developers, if they're not using AI, I don't know what they're doing. There is a resistance in the culture of that a little bit. I think there's a little bit of fear for good reason. But developers leveraging AI and even vibe coding as developers, your expertise makes you almost superhuman. And so you're just always doing more with less. And so we're encouraging anybody to go out and find people that are strong at no code or using AI to build out their MVPs, their prototypes, or to use it purely for automation. There's just so many opportunities there that we could probably talk about all day, and happy to go into any of the ones I'm seeing. But I would only want to hire a group that is, or hire somebody that is leveraging AI. And I think that's actually, hope you don't mind me saying, meeting Quickly Hire and getting to know you, the piece that was the most interesting to me was from day one, we started having this discussion. You guys were leaning into the AI revolution. And where a lot of others were trying to feel it out or wait, you were going out and seeking out people that leverage that from the employment point of view. And so I could go out and find offshore-based or offshore developers that might be using AI, or they may just be trying to do things the same way they always have. Or I could hire somebody, maybe shore-based or not, but is already leaning into that AI space, which lets me do more for less, but you've helped qualify them, making sure it all works and just builds that strong relationship. And that's really how we got to know about Quickly Hire and why we do actively promote it. Several of our startups are already have reached out and are planning to reach out to and start using that fractional piece, because I get why there's resistance, but it's just insane in the way the world is going today to not leverage this technology in your startup to help you do more with less and be successful faster. You can figure out the details after you get up and running, but you've got to be using this or you're going to fall behind to somebody that is.
Could not agree more and appreciate the kind words and the partnership with you and Founders Forge as well. It's easy as a contract worker, any worker, to be honest with you, to see this as a threat. And I think that's the first place sometimes people go is just the threat is my job in danger. Full time, doesn't matter, right? Skill level doesn't matter, executive all the way to junior. But I think what you mentioned, what you highlighted there is so important. It does, if you're embracing this, it does give you superhuman strength. It allows you to be more. I know I'm just as a founder and CEO of the business that I run, I'm doing a better job by leaning on AI, by using it in some areas to fill gaps that may have taken a long time, or I may not even have known what resource to bring in. I'm able to do things faster, more efficiently, and really more accurately as well.
And
And you can see that. And so that is the goal with Quickly Hire in placing talent that can leverage that. But I understand completely if you're a founder going through trying to build a high growth startup, being able to lean on someone who pull in people that know AI is critical.
yeah, I think the resistance from the worker space, I struggle with that too, because at some point, jobs will be lost to us. That's definitely a reality. And the kind of doomsayers are saying, oh, everything's going to be gone. Nobody's going to work anymore. I just don't think that's true. I think the positive side on it, I'm also not, we're going to have a utopian society. It's not, it's always somewhere in the middle. And workers that learn and leverage AI, right, especially right now, you're the superhuman workers. And you're going to feel like almost like you're cheating because in the early days, if a company's not using it, and you start using it and your output's so much better and greater than everyone else's, you're going to stand out. And maybe you tell them what you're doing. Maybe you keep it as your secret sauce. I think it's better to show everyone so you have a culture of innovation, but it does make workers more powerful. Where you in the past, a developer could only do one job at a time. Now, if you're using certain technologies like Cloud Code and things like that, you might be able to spin up 2 or 3 projects in that same amount of time that you were doing it. You just tripled your revenue as a freelancer or individual or contract worker. I think that's extremely powerful. I teach one class also at the East Tennessee State University, adjunct faculty in their entrepreneurship program. And they had employers reach out and had a roundtable discussion. And it was clear they were saying, don't send us any more students unless they know how to use AI and use it well. I think AI also gets a bad rep on, people try to write a paper and it just like, you say, write a paper about this, they give it no context and it gives it something that's just slop, right? But if you see it as a tool, then you have an opportunity to make your content and things better and more successful. And I think if we see it as a tool to help you do your job even better, amazing things are coming from it. And you as a worker right now are ahead of the pack. If you don't adopt it, you're going to fall so far behind that it's going to be really tough to learn and use it, and everyone else is going to be ahead of you. And so I think even if you're afraid of it, you need to get into it and understand it and use it the way you think is the best, but you need to learn how to use it well.
Great advice. That's great advice. As we wrap up here, David, I've got a few lightning round questions for you. And talking about AI, you just prompted me to think of, hey, what AI tools are you using right now?
I will say, what are we not using? The biggest ones are Claude Code, ChatGPT 5, of course, and 4.0 as well, as I brought that back. We're using N8N. We integrate a lot of things into an AI tool, but very good. And then kind of behind the scenes, we use everything from Supabase to Vercel for hosting, anything that works in with that. And then Playwright, MCP, we can go on and on. But the biggest ones I pay for are Claude Code, and I jumped up to $100 a month. Probably will hit $200 a month eventually, just because compare $100 a month to $100 an hour. Those tools are big, but between that, ChatGPT or OpenAI's platform, and then Cursor and Motion are the ones I pay for right now.
For a founder that is starting, they've got an idea and they're looking for some support in order to take that next step, what advice would you give them?
I think you've got to get connected to your startup community. There's always one there, and that might just be a small business or a startup founder that just wants to get coffee. And just get together with other people. The community will form, and that's the basis of every successful community. It's not started from the top. It's not organizations, not creating front doors or putting umbrellas over organizations. It's just getting the founders to get together. And if you do, that'll be phenomenal. And then programs like Levante and others tend to be sourced by these other organizations that can bring it out and bring it in. Or you can reach out and we'll try to see if we can get it positioned there or invite you to an online class. But finding training from people that aren't startup gurus, they're the ones saying, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to help you find out, are the people you want to be working with.
Do you have a favorite book that you've read recently?
Ooh, that one's tougher. There's been a few. I think Noah Kagan's $1 Million Weekend has been one of my new favorites that I hand out a lot. And it's just, there's so many founders that just don't reach out and talk to people and ask. And there's so many good pieces of advice in there. I think sometimes $1 Million Weekend title turns people away, but when you read it, it's phenomenal. And I'd recommend that for anybody that's just getting started or just to get some motivation to do sales and reach out and build a company.
On a day off, you can do anything you want to do. What do you choose?
Ooh. Many times I will sit there and write code, which doesn't feel like a day off, but I have fun. I'm a workaholic for sure, but I love experimenting with all this technology and building my own side hustle type things. But when I'm not coding or doing something like that, I'm a whitewater kayaker. Love being out in the mountains, hiking, biking. We have a lot of mountain biking here, and just getting out and visiting and being with friends. To me, it goes back to that networking for life, not just for business, where you make friends, you build a network, and it helps you across the board. I've got a 3-year-old at home, and having a network of friends and family people to bounce ideas off and to ask, is this normal? It's so important. And so I'm a social person. I like to, I always have to be moving, doing something, but making connections and friendships is really important.
And finally, 5 years from now, what does Founders Forge and the ecosystem in Northeast Tennessee look like?
Yeah, I think we're on a mission to make really not just our region, but Appalachia extremely economically viable through innovation and entrepreneurship. And so I think in 5 years from now, with the pace things are going, I really see Johnson City as being and Founders Forge being the hub and the model that others are trying to copy in their communities. And I think we're on a very good pace to that. But I think people will look, and instead of people saying entrepreneurship can't happen in an area like Johnson City, they're going to say either how does it happen and try to follow the model, or we're going to be helping them understand and implement it in their own communities as well.
It sounds like there are many elements that people already should be copying. You've been extremely successful in a short time period, and it's really incredible what you and your team and the community there is doing in Northeast Tennessee.
Thank you. That's the thing about being a founder is you have to stop and celebrate those wins because it always feels like there's more to be done. From my experiences, it never stops feeling that way. And I think taking the time to celebrate with your team, looking back and reviewing what you've done so far and how far you've come is so important, just to remember the successes you've had, because then that's extremely motivating to go out and do more.
David, thank you so much for joining us. Where can someone learn more? We talked about the conference, but they find out more information about Founders Forge or reach out to you.
Yeah, really just foundersforge.com and at my Founders Forge on the socials. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out, just you can hit me up on LinkedIn. David Nelson's a harder name to find, but if you go through the Founders Forge site, that will get to me as well. So look forward to talking to anybody that has interest or even just wants to chat about startups. I'm always game.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it. Enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Partner Pulse. If you're part of a founder community or workspace looking to provide your members with access to exceptional fractional talent, visit quicklyhire.com to explore partnership opportunities. Be sure to subscribe for more insights on building successful startup ecosystems.